Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Gessman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Gessman, coming to you on a Monday, June 28th, closing out June with an LA Galaxy win, 2-1 over the San Jose Earthquakes. We're going to get you through that game, tell you some of the stats, tell you some of the numbers that tell you whether or not the LA Galaxy are playing well. Maybe they're just surprising some people. We're going to look at all that through 10 games, almost a third of the way through the season. Take a look at that. We have some awards. We have some news. We have some international call-ups. We have a whole bunch of stuff to get to and talk about. To help me do all that, the Panda is back himself, Mr. Kevin Baxter. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, do you think I should re-record that guitar riff that with Michael Araujo that we used to intro the show? Do you think I was a little too heavy on that, or does that sound okay?
Yeah, you want to take credit for the premium beat music I paid $60 for? Is that where I'm getting this at?
Yeah, I've already. By the way, there's a bear sneaking up behind you.
There always is, and so far he just stays there. I heard if you just leave him alone, he's a happy bear. I think he's wearing a Jonathan Dos Santos jersey, so that's a happy bear right there. That's a good thing.
You see, I got the Spanish national team kit on today because of their in honor of their victory in the Euros today and extra time. I still think Belgium's going to win the tournament. I really like Belgium. I like Roberto Martinez, Kevin De Bruyne, of course, Man City guy. Portugal's out.
Right. No, I mean, today was possibly, and if you haven't been paying attention to any of the Euros, today was possibly one of the greatest days of soccer in Euros history. Just amazing comebacks. By the way, Kevin, both teams, let's see, Spain scored first, Croatia scored first, and then Spain scored 3 goals, and then Croatia scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to take it to extra time, where Spain scored 2 more goals. That was interesting. And then you had France and the Swiss, and the Swiss scored the first goal. And then after the Swiss scored the first goal, then France scored 3 goals, and then the Swiss scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to take it into extra time, where they then outlasted the world champions and won in penalty kicks.
So see, it's wide open now for Belgium. They just need to get past Italy, which will be tough.
Right.
And by the way, because Copa America and the Euros have both been delayed a year because of COVID, and because Gold Cup has expanded a little bit, they have this qualifying games that'll be going on this weekend. Do you know there'll be 15 games between July 2nd, which is Friday, July 2nd through the end of next week, July 11th, when the Euros end? There'll be 15 top flight international games going on.
I mean, it doesn't. If you're a soccer fan, it doesn't suck to be a soccer fan right now, right? I mean, you got MLS is back, which is good and bad, certainly. And then, you have all of the Euros. You have the Copa America as well. So it's fun. It's fun to watch.
And that's just the competitive games, because Mexico will be playing Nigeria Saturday at the Coliseum. I don't have ticket sales numbers on those yet, but I've been told that ticket sales are going very well.
Good.
I think they have to get past 52,000, the largest crowd the Dodgers got, and then it will be the largest game or largest attendance for a music or entertainment or sporting event in Southern California since probably the Rose Bowl in early 2020.
Well, it's been, again, it's a great time for soccer right now. There's a lot of stuff, although it is, and I think we're seeing this on the French side, or certainly on the Euros, is everybody's tired, Kevin. These condensed schedules, now all these tournament games and everything that's going on. I mean, we're going to talk about Greg Vanney and the substitutes that he uses and how he's using that and why the San Jose game is such an important template for the LA Galaxy to follow. But condensed schedules are going to ruin legs, and they make for some sloppy soccer. I don't know if you've seen the own goal stats in the Euros, but it was like there were 9 own goals in the Euros, and there were 9 combined own goals in all of the Euros before that. So,
well, Taylor Twellman was breaking some of that down, and he also credited some of it to the travel. This is the first Euro where there's been widespread travel. Although, really, I mean, you can go from Frankfurt to Rome in like 90 minutes, but you do have to get to the airport, get on a plane, do all that stuff. It's not like you set up headquarters in some place for a month.
Well, let's first give a shout out to Aaron. Aaron gave us a $10 super chat and says, "Good evening, gents. I was wondering, you're both such handsome chaps," so we know he's lying already. Any beauty tips for us other middle-aged men? Kevin, first of all, middle-aged, just, I mean, I still feel like I'm 27, Aaron, so, you know.
And I'm old, so he's got the wrong show.
I don't know what he's watching, but it wasn't thing. You know, Aaron, I find, you know, a lot of lotion, a lot of face lotion helps hopefully reverse some of this sun damage that I have all across my my forehead. So yeah.
I gave up like 15 years ago, so
people can tell.
Nothing. I got nothing. Yeah,
they can tell.
Exactly.
They can tell. No problems. Let's get to the LA Galaxy now. A game against San Jose Earthquakes. Let's start by saying this was an extremely important win, I think, for the LA Galaxy. San Jose is a train wreck, so let's throw that out right now. San Jose is a train wreck. Almeida is on thin ice. I don't think that he'll get fired because of this game, because I don't think San Jose would want to give the LA Galaxy credit for being the last team to sort of beat them and fire him. I think San Jose is a little smarter than that. But
his antics on the sidelines, I mean, I don't know what was going on there, but that had the clear resonance of a guy who knew it was all over and said, let's have a little bit of fun on our way out the door.
He's a character. I've always enjoyed him being a character. He sort of tries to play the supervillain, and I think if he had a better team, his team would be a supervillain, but they're not good. And it looks, at least in the game against the LA Galaxy and certainly the game against Orlando, it looks like they've stopped playing for him as well, which is an important sort of puzzle piece to all this. But the LA
is that Guinness or rum and Coke, by the way?
This is, you know, everybody always knows that I love Dr. Pepper. And I've decided that drinking all of my calories with Dr. Pepper is probably not a smart thing to do. So this is iced tea, not anything special.
Really?
It is unsweetened iced tea. I make it myself. It is wonderful. I love it. But just iced tea. There's nothing special in this, although I wish there was sometimes. Not a Long Island iced tea, just a regular old black tea iced tea. That's it. Well,
while you're chugging that, I'll remind people that the San Jose win means 6 points on the road for the Galaxy in 4 days.
Yes.
That is... yes, it's Vancouver and San Jose. San Jose, it's a rivalry game, but still, it's 6 points on the road. It doesn't happen very often in MLS.
No, and if
4 days.
And if I remember correctly, I might have a chart on the away points, and if I don't, I'll grab it or I'll look it up here real quick. I'm pretty sure the LA Galaxy have surpassed all of their 2020 away points. I think they have 9 away points right now, and in all of 2020, I think they had 6 or 8 or something like that. So I'll look it up. There's a lot of 2020 comparisons now, with the LA Galaxy having played a third of their season and basically only 1 point off the pace of 2020's total as well with this. Let's get to the lineups a little bit just so you can sort of understand what Greg Vanney did. And we can talk about how resting people sort of comes in here. Not a lot of changes. You have Cabral, you have Chicharito, you have Grandsir up top. Listen, the younger legs here, Vanney is going to he's going to let those legs run, right? He's going to pick and choose who he sort of puts in the middle and who has that heaviest workload. And it's always the central midfielders and wingers have the heaviest workload. Forwards, unless you're playing like Chicharito did in this game, you shouldn't run as much. But Chicharito was running all over the place. We'll talk about that too. But what he did basically was he took Sasha Klesch and he took Victor Vasquez and he put them on the bench, and he brought in Jonathan Dos Santos, who was a substitute in the last game, and Efrain Alvarez, who was a substitute in the last game, and he brought them in. So he rotated well, and he got healthy bodies in there with Jonathan Dos Santos in there as well, Kevin. So for me, it was the right amount of changes without altering the structure of how they're playing. This is a second consecutive game. They've sort of gone in that 4-3-3, even though it sort of morphs in and out of that. And we can talk about how that looks. But for me, this is a solid lineup. This is one that you could sort of expect, Kevin. It was at least one where like you weren't surprised by any of the changes. These all made sense to me.
Put that back up again, because there's something interesting there too. When you talk about, we talked before coming on the air about the workload and squad rotation, those things are going to have to happen. You have Dos Santos and Alvarez. We know they're going away. They're training right now with the Mexican national team. They may, it looks like, both be gone for the Gold Cup. So this is a great opportunity if Greg Vanney knew that, to rest those two guys, to play those two guys and rest some players that are going to have to play a lot while they're away. A guy like Vasquez, in his mid-30s, he's going to have trouble playing a lot of games in July at the heat and everything else. So he's sort of got a breather. These two guys played. They'll be going away, and Vasquez, he'll be called on, I think, to play a lot of minutes while they're away. So I think the rest, the starting lineup and the substitutions were very appropriate with Greg Vanney knowing what's coming up.
Yeah, eventually the subs to come in. You get Sasha Kleshin in, you get Victor Vasquez in there. Saldana, I think, eventually made an appearance there. Dunbar came in and made an appearance. So did we have 4 subs total? Was there one more there? Oh, I think Zubak eventually came in as well. Yeah. So
the Chicharito whisperer, who's not whispering much anymore.
Well, he doesn't put him on the field at the same time anymore. How can they possibly be the Chicha whisperer whenever happens? But
Chicharito would have like 20 goals now.
Yeah, he could. He could. But yeah, I mean, listen, this game is a lot of fun, and it's fun for a lot of reasons. And one of the things I said, and I've sort of been leading, and I said this at halftime of this game too, but this is, if the LA Galaxy want to be successful in this league, then they need to start winning games comfortably, Kevin. And you have to do it comfortably, especially with these condensed schedules, because you need a chance to rest people during a game. Right? You don't want to be suffering. And this is something Greg Vanney says all the time. He goes, we suffer too much. And what he means is that if you don't put the game away, then you have to chase. You have to work hard. You have to be, on the top, on your tiptoes and running your butts off for the entire 90 minutes if you don't put games away. And the LA Galaxy, up until this game, had failed really to win comfortably and walk sort of away with a win. And this was the game that they did, which I'm totally surprised at, Kevin. When you talk about a rivalry game, when you talk about a game that, even though it was the third game in 3 days, the third game of 3 basically in a week, that really, when you look at what should have happened in this game, is San Jose should have had a reaction to their 5-0 loss in Orlando. We know that. We know we should have looked at that and said, listen, San Jose is really going to come out and really try to body the LA Galaxy, because they want to avenge that loss that they had, against Orlando. They want to show that they're not as bad as they've been playing. But what happened instead, Kevin, was they got walked all over again by the LA Galaxy. I mean, really, it helps so much when you get a first 11 minutes in, you get a goal from Chicharito, because that sets the tone for everything. Already San Jose is chasing that game at home with a whole bunch of traveling LA Galaxy fans. They're already chasing the game. So getting that goal was super, super important. And doing that, and then sort of comfortably, and I'll say comfortably, walking through that first half was super important, I think. I mean, listen, getting Cabral and getting Grandsir involved in the offense is something that they've tried to do over and over again. And we really haven't seen the fruits of that until this game. So getting them involved, and I'm going to say taking pressure off of Chicharito, which is funny because he ends up scoring 2 goals in this game, and he helps create both of those goals as well. He's involved in the play in both of these goals as well. When you look at that, I feel like there's been a real step forward for this LA Galaxy team. This was a step forward. A crappy team in San Jose, but a step forward. They played the crappy team and they drove them into the ground.
Right, and a couple things. I know San Jose is not exactly the 1970 Brazilian World Cup team, but I thought the back line played pretty well. I thought they looked like they were all on the same page and they were covering for one another. They didn't get the clean sheet, which was unfortunate, but I thought they played pretty well. Offensively, one thing that I know, I thought Grandsir and Cabral were both very active, but every time down, everyone's looking for Chicharito. And I don't know whether that's Greg's game plan, whether the players decide that on their own. I'd like to see somebody else step up and take a shot on goal every once in a while, just to change things up a little bit and give the opponents, something to think about. Every time you see, people coming up with a good angle and they pull up and look for Chicharito.
Well, I mean, there's 2 things that I think. One is Kevin Cabral should have scored like 2 goals in this game, at least, because he was in front of goal. He had it. He should have put some away. He didn't. He was active. He was involved. He also had probably the worst defensive play on the night, where he stood and watched as a San Jose player just sort of dribbled around him, and he was like, maybe not. And, they almost scored on that play. And then he comes down the other direction and feeds Chicharito for the goal. So, I mean, a little bit of a mixed bag with Kevin, but still you saw him involved. I'll tell you this, the LA Galaxy have not scored a goal outside of the box yet this year. Every single goal has been scored inside the box. Who is really good at scoring goals inside the box, Kevin?
Well, yeah, Chicharito is. But, I mean, it does look a little bit like the Zlatan years, and that we're going to get the ball down deep, and we're going to start looking for, in this case, Chicharito. You know, one thing with Cabral, I'd like to see him, maybe next time there's a penalty kick, maybe it's not Sasha, maybe Cabral takes it, because you just have the feeling like once he gets one, it's just going to break everything open. He's just so close, and he seems to be trying so hard to get that one goal that I think once it happens, he's going to relax and they're going to come.
Well, as much as I don't know that I agree with the Chicha criticism in terms of always looking for him. The LA Galaxy did have.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just observing.
Yeah, okay, observing. Then you're observant. I'm not going to disagree. I look at that. There were 25 crosses by the LA Galaxy as well in this game, right? One of the reasons was that San Jose was allowing them all the room they wanted on the edges, right? I mean, really, Cabral and Grandsir were open. The weak side, the offside of these plays were open over and over and over again, which is one of the reasons a lot of that offense went through those guys. So that was good. But I mean, talk about the first goal. This starts with a Nick DePuy, like sort of just run forward, and then who checks back? And we've seen this from Chicharito, and there's always been a criticism. But in the Seattle game and certainly in the San Jose game, teams have sort of figured out how to play around their man-to-man defense that they play, which is having that striker drop back into the midfield to pull a center back away, right? And that's exactly what happens in this particular game, in this goal, because DePuy, I have just said that that's not his name like a million times. DePuy gets the ball. He passes it to Chicharito as he checks back. Chicharito gets the ball with his back to goal, turns, and fires out wide to Grandsir. Now the play is open, right? Because Grandsir was open on that right-hand side. So that's wonderful. That's where it was. One touch, which I love, a little nudge forward by Grandsir, and then he's going to find this box. Now, there's two runs that are made in this that make this, and so this is why I'm saying looking for Chicharito. I don't think he was looking for Chicharito, but he was putting it in a place where Chicharito was probably going to pop up. But remember, Chicharito started that play about 12 yards inside his own attacking half. He's not close to goal, Kevin. He has to run 40 yards, basically, in order to be in a position to score that goal. But what does Cabral do? Whenever Chicharito pulled in, Cabral made a near post. He ran down the center of the field, and then he made a little bit of a turn to the near post. Not much, but enough that it just opens this little seam. And who else was on the near post was Efrain Alvarez. Now, Alvarez had a very quiet game in this one. You didn't really see much from him, but one of the things he did was he sort of turned and went towards that near post. So as Grandsir is getting ready to hit that ball, you have two guys who are in the box who are occupying about three defenders in this. And so Alvarez cutting to the near post, Cabral down the center and a little bit cheating towards the near post. And who comes in from his 40-yard run, full sprint, and beats two San Jose defenders to the ball? It's Chicharito. Danny Rojas, yes, that guy. But I mean, to me, that's, we talk about team goals, and a lot of times team goals happen from a whole bunch of passes and stuff. Like, there's not a whole bunch of passes in this, but that's a team goal. All of the movement that the LA Galaxy did open players up. I mean, Cabral could have been open on that near post as Alvarez cut hard to the near post. He sort of opened up space for Cabral. Cabral was there. Cabral also moved towards the ball and took a defender with him to open up space for Chicharito. So for me, yes, they're looking for him, as they should. And I think, Greg was even saying afterwards, he goes, hey, I said all along that if we could get the ball into the box to Chicharito, that we were going to be okay. And that's what's happening right now. A lot of balls crossed on the ground, some chances that I think Chicharito missed and stuff like that. But in that first goal, that's a perfect example of everything the LA Galaxy should be doing right now.
Well, Soccer Diva mentioned it, or asked Chicharito about it after the game, about the fact that he appears to be so happy. And I've been following Chicharito, as you know, stalking Chicharito probably since 2010 when I covered Mexico in the World Cup in South Africa, and then went to see him play in Manchester. And anyway, my point is, I don't think I've ever seen him as happy and relaxed. He's always been a very serious guy. And I don't know, I'm only guessing at some point, but what happened in the last year with his family thing and then his grandfather dying and his struggles, I think maybe he got to the point where it's like, I can't take this so seriously anymore. It's killing me. I have to lighten up a little bit and enjoy the good moments. And he just seems happier than I've ever seen him. And clearly the success, I don't think he's ever had 10 goals in 10 games of a season before. So clearly the success is making him happy, but I think the two go together. I think he's successful because he's happy, and then he's happy that he's successful.
Yes, that is the thing. Let me get you some audio from Greg Vanney, who talked a little bit about Javier, and sort of we were talking about Vanney said if we could get the ball in the box, that type of thing. I was sort of paraphrasing. Let's hear from Vanney himself here and see if we can pick out exactly where that was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, for Javi, when he's connecting with our wingers, or better, our wingers are connecting with Javi. And I said this before we even started this journey of this season, is if we can get our wingers to the end line and we can get players to the end line, then Javi's going to score a lot of goals this year. If we can get guys behind the back line and we can force center backs to defend deep, he's such a clever runner in the box that he's going to get opportunities. And now we're starting to see the pass between the winger, whether it's Kevin or Sam or whoever's out there, and the finisher, who is Javi. They've got to be able to read each other, anticipate where the ball is going to go, which gives Javi the opportunity to get to those spots. And he's such a good finisher with that. So again, I think it's part of that, the chemistry that will continue to grow with these guys, that they get in training, that they get through matches, that they get when we watch video. That will continue to hopefully blossom, which I believe it will, because our wide guys are going to continue to get better as they settle in more and more.
So there you go, little Greg Vanny. I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
One thing before we get away is he calls him Sam. You can call him Sam if you're the coach, but we call him Samuel Grandsir. People have said, these guys coming over from France or any European players are coming over, they're chasing a paycheck. They don't really care about MLS, yada, yada, yada. What happened with Grandsir's family this week, and what did he do in reaction to that?
Yeah.
This is very interesting.
No, this was a surprise. We didn't know about this, and it was a question, and Greg sort of threw it in. They were asking about just sort of how these guys adapt, and we can play the audio, but really the gist of it is that he said, Sam had a baby earlier this week.
Well, actually, his wife did.
Yeah. I was going to say Sam
did. If he did, that'd be a big story.
It'd be a much bigger story. But he, his wife had, or his girlfriend, I'm not sure what it is, and I don't want to assume, his partner had a baby earlier this week, and Sam had asked to go home to see the baby. I mean, in France, right? And I said, by the way, Greg said go home, and I'm like, is that, I texted some PR people, I'm like, is home LA or home France? And they're, the home is France. So Grandsir had a baby in France, and he was going to go visit the baby, I imagine for the first time, because he's not there with the baby. So he was going to go visit the baby in France. And he was going to do it after the Vancouver game. He was going to play in Vancouver, and he was going to take some time to go back and visit the baby, and the Galaxy had okayed that and said, yeah, absolutely, go do your thing. And then after the Vancouver game, he's like, he asked if it was okay to stay. Basically, he wanted to stay and play the other game because I think he liked where the LA Galaxy were, and he knew how important that San Jose game was. And so he stayed and played in that San Jose game. I mean, one part of me is really impressed with that sort of dedication, and one part of me is like, dude, go home and see your baby. Like, it's just soccer.
Yeah, but if he goes now, he misses one game, right? Because he'll be back by the 17th. With COVID, there's probably a quarantine on one side or the other, and it's a mess. You're right. If he wanted to go home, nobody would say anything about it. There'd be no controversy at all. But I think the fact that he stayed, he's 10 games into his MLS career, yet he already feels so committed that he wants to stay and play in the rivalry game rather than go home and see the baby. And again, you can say the guy's nuts or what a dedicated guy,
right? But
I think it speaks to where his mind is and his dedication to the Galaxy.
It reminds me of whenever I was younger and my mom would be like, hey, it's time to come home. And I'm like, hey, Mom, let me just finish this game. Just one more game, and then I'll come down for dinner. That's Grandsir calling his wife. Just one more game, hon, and then I will come home. I promise. So anyway, I thought super interesting on that. I thought, Grandsir really kind of almost had a breakout game for him. He was very good. He played very well. He played with a lot of control. They were saying, was
that his first assist?
Yes, it was both Cabral and Grandsir. They both got their first assists.
Wow, the French connection.
The French were playing, so it was a thing going on. So Patrick in the chat room says Grandsir starting to play loose, and Cabral's not there yet. He said Cabral's very tight, and I agree with that. Sort of, Cabral is trying, he's pushing, and you just want him to sort of settle and relax a little bit and be like, I can play in this league. And I think even though he played tight, that you saw he can play in this league against a really crappy team in San Jose. But that's the thing. But okay, so we get through the first half, Kevin. You're up 1-0. Now this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Because the LA Galaxy have been in this position before, and they've made it difficult on themselves before. They haven't pressed hard. They haven't kept the pedal down. They haven't scored that second or that third goal to put the game away, and because of that, they've had to work very, very hard for the rest of, that game, and they weren't able to sort of, coast or cruise a little bit. And again, as we were talking earlier, you have to do that this year if you're going to be successful. You need to be able to rest during games in order to be successful this year. I know that sounds crazy, but you need to be up ahead that you can coast through this. And I said at halftime, this is the time. They need to learn it right now, and San Jose was giving them the chances to do it, so it needs to happen. And so what do we get in the second half? We get 5 minutes from the start of the second half, we get a Chicharito goal, number 2, and it comes from the other side, this time from Kevin Cabral. And so you got Grant Suhr in the first half, you had Cabral in the second half. A very similar thing, except that in this one, I will never understand how Chicharito even gets anywhere near this ball, Kevin. There were 5 Quakes defenders who weren't really doing much whenever Cabral comes down that left-hand side and picks out Chicharito with a near-post run, and Cheech just sort of dinks it into the back of the net on, a full volley. Somebody was joking that you should worry more about Chicharito whenever he has time to dribble or time to think about the shot. If he's just going to one-touch it into the goal, best guy to have on your team to do that. But if you give him any sort of chances to think about it or to really sort of size up the shot, he'll probably miss.
That's an interesting stat, because I bet you most of his goals, I'm just recollecting them, are all that one-touch, one-touch variety. By the way, every time he scores 2 or more goals, he wins MLS Player of the Week.
Yes.
He's done it 3 times. Jonathan Bond won it once, so 4 times in 10 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Which means 40%. 40% of the LA Galaxy. You're. I can hear you. Well, you were for a second, and then you disappeared again. I'll let you work on it. Nope, can't hear you now. You're gonna have to plug it back in. I'll talk while you try to figure that out. Just wiggle it or something. So whenever you look at that, it's the LA Galaxy have run 40% of the total team of the week plays so far this year. There you go. I think you're back.
Am I there?
Yeah.
I'm there now. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you're waxing poetic about how great the Galaxy are, and I mentioned 6 points on the road in 4 days. Now they're going to play Sporting Kansas City. It's at home. Mm-hmm. They have a little bit of rest, but they'll be without Derek Williams, presumably without Grant Suhr, probably without Jonathan Dos Santos, without Efrain Alvarez. Yep. And they have a 10-day break coming up after that, so I think it's everybody else is available.
They go July 4th and then July 7th because they have FC Dallas at home midweek too, right? And so all of that is sort of leading to all of this. Without going too much, the third goal for the LA Galaxy and getting the extra sort of bonus goal from Dunbar, and it's some great work by Dunbar. And by the way, that whole entire move starts on the left-hand side and ends up on the right-hand side. Galaxy were switching the ball well. They were playing well. They were passing well. They didn't have all the possession, but again, they were sort of coasting. And so you get the third goal and that own goal. I said, what does San Jose and Spain have in common? And it was that they both scored an own goal today or yesterday. And by the way, the San Jose Earthquakes have scored 2 own goals against the LA Galaxy in their last 2 games, and they've only scored 1 goal themselves. So the own goal, they've scored more goals for the LA Galaxy than they have for themselves in the last 2 games they played for the LA Galaxy. I'll tell you this. I have never seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it this bad, Kevin. And maybe I'm not thinking in terms of like 2012 or 2014. But after watching that game, watching the LA Galaxy dominate fairly easily, getting to do the subs, like we said, all 5 subs being used, sort of getting the coast. And yes, they gave up a goal, and Greg Van Eagle will be upset about that, blah, 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 the whole thing. Who cares? You throw that away for a game that you win 3-1, you take it away. I have never seen a San Jose team so irrelevant and making that rivalry so irrelevant. It's not a rivalry right now, and you can't even call it that. Because San Jose didn't play that game like a rivalry game. They played that game like they were scared they were going to lose it from the very beginning, and they did. And so they didn't come out and attack. And however Almeida has them, he doesn't have them in a good spot. They are listing heavily. They're going to sink because you can see it. But there was no heart in that team whatsoever. And the LA Galaxy, to give them credit, took that heart. Any chance they had of having that heart disappeared in the 11th minute when Chicharito scored a goal, and all those San Jose Earthquakes all suddenly had this flashback to the midweek game they played on Tuesday, where they gave up 5 goals to Orlando, and all that. I said irrelevant, and then ESPN in their power rankings said the San Jose is irrelevant. And I was sort of like, I didn't know that they were going to say that, but that seems 100% true right now.
Well, I think they should learn. I mean, someone's got to get them like one of those soccer strategy books. There's zone marking now. They can use zone marking. By the way, is Ravel Lasson going to be able to play in these 2 upcoming games? I think my nickname for him now is going to be King Julius because he's from Madagascar.
Oh, okay, yes, and that's the I get that. That's a Madagascar cartoon reference. I get it. No, I get it.
Is King Julius going to be able to play this week?
Yeah, so I was told they were expecting him, and even on Friday, I heard they were expecting him over the weekend. That hasn't changed, and the LA Galaxy were kind of off today, so we didn't really get to hear anything from them. So I imagine tomorrow on Tuesday, I'll sort of be able to find out a little more information. But I imagine that he will be here this week, and that will put him and make him available for the game coming up on Sunday.
And putting him in then in place of Jonathan would, at least for a while, would certainly help. By the way, I had another question that I don't know how to segue in and out of this. Is Jonathan Bond the best so far? It's 10 games, I understand. Is he the best goalkeeper in Galaxy history since Kevin Hartman? Let's put it that way.
I mean, so
is he better? Is he better than Pineda?
Jaime Pinedo, maybe. I don't know. It's 10 games. It's really hard. I'll tell you this, that in MLS right now, he's one of the clear favorites for goalkeeper of the year, and I don't think it's close. I mean, so if we're going to go 10 games in and just shut everything down at 10 games and sort of say where we're at, in my mind, Chicharito is your MVP and Golden Boot winner, right? Because he's the guy who's done the most for the team so far through 10 games. I'm going to tell you what that means here in a second. And so for me, he's that. Jonathan Bond is probably goalkeeper of the year. Greg Vanney is probably coach of the year. And then you get into the defender of the year, and I'll certainly say that Julian Araujo is in talks to be defender of the year. If you would have told everybody that would have been happening 10 games in 2020, I think everybody would think you were crazy. So even if we just try to take the 10 games and sort of, project out from that a little bit, and clearly that's not a realistic way, right? We understand 10 games is not a season. Season is 34 games, and so you're a third of the way through the season. It's not even half of the season, right? You're still a lot of ways to go. But there's been huge improvement, Kevin. You can't disagree with that.
You know why it would have been a surprise to say that Jonathan Bond would win goalie of the year in 2020 is because he was still in England, and that would be impossible for him. Yes. But you're giving all the prizes to a team that, I mean, they're in third place right now. So I'm not saying I disagree with any of that, but they're in third place.
Who on Seattle are you going to give the MVP to? You give it to Rui Diaz, except he scored 1 goal less than Chicharito right now. Yeah. I mean, okay, they've played each other head to head. I still don't think the LA Galaxy as a team are better than Seattle, not yet. But you don't need to beat Seattle now. You need to beat them in the playoffs later. I'm there. This SKC team, if it was a full strength LA Galaxy team going up against a full strength SKC team, which it doesn't seem like it is, then this is a huge game. But as it is, it's probably a mid-year game, and you're sort of like, okay, it means not a lot, but you'd like to see the LA Galaxy do well on 4th of July in front of their home fans and sort of make up for the bad taste that was in the mouth against Seattle. I think the LA Galaxy match up good against Sporting Kansas City. But
the one thing I totally, there's no argument that Vanney is the coach of the year right now. I mean, there's just no question about that. By the way, as good as Bond has been, remember his save percentage is nowhere near Mike McGee's.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike McGee was still, I think if you're going on save percentage, Mike McGee is the best in LA Galaxy history. So
yeah, maybe the best in MLS history.
That was fun because everybody was going over. That was last Friday was the 10-year anniversary of that day, which is just nuts. It was fun because the LA Galaxy retweeted my original tweet that started Mike McGee facts, because if you didn't know, and I'm sure I say it once every year whenever this comes around, is I started Mike McGee facts sitting in the San Jose airport waiting to come home. I was at the game that Mike McGee started played in that game. I was at that game I was standing with the supporters groups actually and doing all that fun. It was a great trip. Crazy that I was there and that playing at that high school stadium that San Jose used to play at, and seeing that. But it was fun to sort of reminisce about all that. It was always fun to hear Mike McGee tell the story. I think it gets more ridiculous every time he tells it. So I enjoy it.
It's been 10 years. Just briefly tell everybody what happened.
So you had
Donovan Ricketts started.
Yeah, Donovan Ricketts started in goal for the LA Galaxy at San Jose. This was Ricketts ended up, I think, breaking his hand in the game.
Forearm, I thought it was.
Yeah, something got jammed or something like that. It was broken and the whole deal. So then Josh Saunders came in. Well, Saunders wasn't in for very long when Steven Lenhart tried to head the ball out of Josh Saunders' hands, and he got contact with the ball, but Saunders sort of, gave him a little elbow up in the face, and Lenhart, being Lenhart, rolled around on the ground as if he had just been murdered. And the referee gave Saunders a red card, which I always thought was unfair. I don't think in VAR days that's definitely a red card, but in that case, when you see what the type of shenanigans that's going on, you can't punish the goalkeeper for that particular. At least as a referee, you're trying to arbitrate and be fair to each team. And when you have a guy who's pulling shenanigans, you give 2 yellow cards and you walk away from it and the whole deal. So Mike McGee was standing on the side of the field and he goes, "Hey, Bruce, who should go in?" This is Mike. He recently recounted this story again. "Bruce, who should go in?" And Bruce gave him an expletive-filled, "I don't know." Right. And so then Mike McGee just walked back and grabbed the goalkeeper's jersey. He's like, "Yeah, Bruce told me that I'm going in to play goalkeeper. I'm gonna go in and play goalkeeper." And so he played for a couple minutes or whatever. It was like to end the half. There was like 10 minutes or 12 minutes, I think, to end that half to get to halftime. And then Mike was like, "Great, well, they'll switch me out and we'll figure out what we're gonna do now." And Bruce was just like, "No, you're going back in goal. That's where you're going." So
he had like 7 saves.
Yeah, it was crazy. I always tell my story. The one story I have that if you were there, you saw this, and Mike agreed with me whenever I recounted this particular detail, is one that was a total team effort. Because the LA Galaxy were refusing to let San Jose score, and it was Mike McGee, but it was everybody else too. The defensive effort was crazy. Remember, they're down to 10 men, and they have Mike McGee as a goalkeeper. So this was basically bunker till you die, right? And so they're bunkering in there. Absolute total team effort. Everybody was working their butts off. It was like a challenge, and they couldn't wait to play. So it was crazy to see that. And then the best part about that was Greg Berhalter is playing center back at the time for the LA Galaxy, right? And he is in there, and he starts hacking Lenhart's ankles and knees and anytime Lenhart gets anywhere near him, Berhalter's just beating the crap out of his legs, right? Like, it doesn't matter if the ball's there or not. Berhalter's kicking him. The referee's standing right there and does nothing about it the entire game. It's like, nope, not going to call that. I already know what types of shenanigans went on in order to get it in this situation. I'm letting it go. And Berhalter, imagine that Lenhart had to sit in a bath of ice after that game because he got pummeled by Berhalter for like 60 minutes of just kicks. Every time he got near him, kick in the ankle, kick in the back of the leg, kick everywhere. And, that's sort of that like old defender type of stuff, Kevin, right? It's like the smart defender knows how to get away with stuff. Greg Berhalter was that smart defender, and he battered Steven Lenhart for the rest of that game.
By the way, speaking of Bruce, I believe New England leads the Eastern Conference still second in the Supporters Shield race. Is that correct?
New England? Yeah, New England is just behind Seattle. Yeah.
But it's interesting because New England plays in the Eastern Conference, which means they'll play Chicago and Cincinnati, both of which are train wrecks, at least twice.
Right.
Maybe 3 times. But in the Supporters Shield race, that's why it's a complete joke this year. Seattle's going to play up and down the Western Conference. A lot of tough teams. I mean, right now, Dallas is in last place. I think Dallas is a dangerous team.
Right.
You can't possibly compare Dallas to Cincinnati and Chicago with a straight face.
Dallas just beat New England, right? Did you see that over the weekend? And it was,
well, there you go.
I was like, okay, it was one of those. That's a surprise.
So the worst team in the West beats the best team in the East, but there's a very good chance a team from the East is going to win the Supporters Shield just because they get 4 gimmies. They already started the season with 4 wins.
The Supporters Shield means nothing. It hasn't meant anything until the last time it was actually balanced, which was 2010 and 2011. Do you know who won the Supporters Shield in 2010 and 2011, Kevin?
The Galaxy.
That is correct. So there we go. That conversation is over. Yeah, but you're right. How it comes all that. Let me get you to
Seattle's the best team in the league.
They are. I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I want to get you the passing network chart.
Oh, there's that math again.
Yeah, I just like this one. It's very balanced, and I like it whenever it's balanced. This is basically showing that the LA Galaxy could do whatever they want. If you look at average positions, there's a nice line of 3 up top with you have Cabral and you have Chicharito, and I believe 11 is Grant Sierra out there as well, right? So they're in there. You have Leggett, who was also tucked in. This is slanted a little bit towards Cabral's side, which I like to see. I think Cabral was the more open of the players, but Grant Sierra had a little bit more advanced position in some of these things. Getting Araujo up the right-hand side. By the way, Araujo made Team of the Week as well. He had a good game against Espinosa, who is a good attacker, and I think that's the reason. I don't know that anybody else did much of that. So
is that a rhombus? It looks like a rhombus.
It's definitely a rhombus. The other thing we have is expected goals. And the only reason I bring this up is that I think there's only been 3 games so far this year, Kevin, that the LA Galaxy have actually led on expected goals whenever you look at everything. And so for me, this is a really interesting, sort of look at everything, which is that that the LA Galaxy not only beat San Jose on the scoreboard, but they also beat them in the expected goals area as well. So 3.1 expected goals to 1.1. So 3-1. What do you know? An expected goals chart that actually sort of works out there. The only other
that thing on the left, that little chart.
Yeah.
Did you do that on an Etch-a-Sketch? Because it looks like an Etch-a-Sketch.
It's MLS's chart. I'm sure they did it on an Etch-a-Sketch. Probably not even like a real Etch-a-Sketch. Probably like a knockoff one because they never want to like go Cadillac for anything. So I imagine it's a knockoff Etch-a-Sketch. The only other thing, two things I want to talk else about this game, and then we can sort of move on because we're 40 minutes into the show. We have other stuff we need to talk about as well. Is one, I have a great video that we got permission to use from somebody who took it, who was at the San Jose game, of San Jose fans being very angry at the LA Galaxy when they walked across the Players Bridge, because San Jose now has a Players Bridge. It used to be just would walk right across the concrete into the locker rooms from the field, and they would block it off, and you could sort of stand there and high five people. But with COVID, they wanted to make that safer, so they created this sky bridge sort of that goes over it, and it's really kind of a cool thing to see. I don't hate it at all. But whenever the LA Galaxy walked across it, they were a little upset. And so we got, like I said, the user on this one on TikTok was able to let us use this. And so you see Sasha Kleshchin sort of walking across the bridge, holding up a jersey, and then you see the beers and the sodas flying, the middle fingers, the one finger salutes from the San Jose fans come as well. And then Jonathan Bond comes up right behind, is all excited as well, and is like, I don't care, and gets all excited. And again, more beers, more sodas being thrown at LA Galaxy players. So the LA Galaxy players had a ton of fun with it. They walked by, they waved Kevin, they enjoyed being it, and they enjoyed sort of riling up all of the San Jose fans as well. But I just thought it was one. I like it because I like just sort of the emotion that it shows, and I like the LA Galaxy like not being bothered by any of it at all. And then I also have to ask whether or not there's anybody who does any sort of security at San Jose and can take care of that, because one of the things that we heard during the broadcast, and people who were at the stadium said that they heard it as well, was the homophobic chant being uttered at goal kicks whenever Jonathan Bond would take a goal kick as well. So some stuff MLS has to do to take care of some things here and tighten some things up in San Jose, because that's unsafe for players. Two, we all know about the homophobic chant and everything that's been going on with FIFA and the Mexican national team and just MLS's whole stance on it. And for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be, being taken care of there in San Jose right now. So,
well, on that video, two of the three players that seem to be gesturing most vividly and getting into it, Cabral and Bond, the two new guys.
I mean, Jonathan Bond was all up there. Sasha Kleshchin holding up the jersey, pointing at the crest and showing all the fans.
He gets it. I mean, he's been in MLS a long time. The other two guys, they're 10 games in.
It just, I know fans love to see this stuff, but it shows just how bought in these guys are too. And after that win, being able to comfortably sort of slide through this is a huge plus for the LA Galaxy. Again, you cannot understate how important it is that they got guys rest. They got 5 guys rest, and Chicharito included. And somebody said, well, shouldn't Chicharito be I want my best player playing every minute of every game. No, you do not. You do not want him playing every minute of every game. If you could sub him in the 65th minute because you're winning 5-0, you sub him in the 65th minute every single time. Chicharito needs to be on the field as long as the LA Galaxy need him to be in the game to score goals. As soon as you don't need him to score goals anymore, his butt better be sitting on the bench. He's putting an unbelievable workload on him, one that he is not accustomed to throughout the latter stages of his career right now. And so any rest you can get him, he needs to be on the bench.
Well, didn't he wave? At one point, didn't he gesture say, "I got to get out of here.
Yep.
I'm spent."
Yep. And if we talked to him after the Vancouver game, which the video is up on cornerofthegalaxy.com, you can go see it. But go see it. He literally answers one question saying, he's muerta, right? He's dead. Right, he's like, I'm dead, and he couldn't catch his breath. He's at altitude. He was exhausted. He was dead. He was done. And so whenever you see that from him, listen, that says nothing to me about his commitment or what he did. He came in, he scored 2 goals. Galaxy are winning 3-0 at the point time. Get him off the field, and 100% correct. Greg Vandy got him off the field, and that's fine. So, there seems to be this pride thing, like with Jonathan Dos Santos. You don't want Jonathan Dos Santos on the field any longer than he needs to be on the field, right? With all of his injury questions and with all the things that he sort of goes through, you want him on the field exactly as long as you need him on the field, and that is it. Same with Sasha Kleshchin, same with Victor Vasquez. The guys who put a lot of miles on their legs need to be subbed as soon as the LA Galaxy are in safe positions to win games. And by the way, that gives great guys like, like Cameron Dunbar, like Saldana, even Harvey, if he's playing, or any of the young guys, Efrain Alvarez even, it gives the young guys a chance to play in there as well in lower pressure situations, still MLS level, but lower pressure situations. You're up by 3 goals. There's not a lot of pressure in there, and you can defend and you can sort of suck things in there. So again, I thought it was a really telling game for it, but more than anything, I'm going to say, yeah, it's absolutely 100%, a great thing for the LA Galaxy. More than anything, it tells me San Jose is irrelevant right now in Major League Soccer, which is sort of crazy in terms of where the LA Galaxy and San Jose have been throughout their
Man, you are not getting a Christmas card from the Earthquakes this year.
Hey, if they want, I have no problem saying that they're a dangerous team when they're a dangerous team. That was not that was a USL sub-level team that tried to go out there and beat the LA Galaxy that night. That was not a test.
This was supposed to be the Stanford game too.
It was supposed to be the Stanford. It was supposed to be a lot of things. It was not. It's one of those things. Let me. I want to get to Greg Vanney just on this last one. He talks a little bit. I asked him afterwards if he was ecstatic about sort of being able to shut the team down early, and then get out of there. And so let's hear what Greg had to say.
Yeah, I just thought it's always going to be a tough game. The third game in 7 days, 2 of them on the road, back to back, coming out of altitude, and then coming here and playing a man-to-man style. And the third game is always physically demanding. I was proud of the guys in terms of just their movement and their work, and created a number of chances. We could have finished a couple more, would have been nice. I know we gave up a couple, but we also just showed some compete and resiliency down the end. And again, what is 3 games in 7 days is a tough ask. And so I know I like that Javi gets 2 goals. That's always good for everybody. I like that Sam and Kevin get assists both for him. Kevin is pressing really hard to get the goal. One of these is going to go in, and it's going to help him, with the confidence of just putting things in. But I thought the effort was good. We dug down and got some guys on the field too, some young guys who had to play in a tough environment. So I'm pleased with where the guys are at, and keep answering the games as they come.
Did you see Greg mirrored me there on the Kevin Cabral thing? Once he scores, I get the confidence. It's nice to know that Greg is at my level of soccer punditry. That's really good.
Can I tell you, anytime any coach agrees with me on something, I always feel so good about myself later. I'm like, wow, see, I'm doing good. And we could both be wrong, right? But I still feel good. I'm like, oh man, I nailed that. Greg thinks that I'm smart too. Woohoo, yay for me. Although sometimes it's better whenever they think you're a moron. It's sometimes a better answer whenever it comes down to it. Let's get to Chicharito winning Player of the Week. We talked about that already. Obviously, third time he did. I'm trying to check 100%, Kevin, but I want to make sure that I'm right. And I tried to look it up quickly and I didn't find it, but at least in a quick search in 2019, Zlatan scored, his 30 goals in 2019. That is the single season scoring record for the LA Galaxy. He was only named Player of the Week 3 times during that. And Chicharito, through 10 weeks, has already been named Player of the Week 3 times. I also have to come clean. I did vote for Chicharito over Ricardo Pepe. And I almost put them. They have about the same ratings. If you look, they both put 2 goals in. I would say that Dallas probably had the more difficult game. But when you look at individual sort of talents, the way that Chicharito helped create both of those goals, to me, was the difference. And by the way, I watched both of those games, so I don't want anybody to be like, hey, you didn't watch the... No, I watched both the games. I understand the significance. But for me, Chicharito, because he was involved in the build-up to both of those goals, was sort of the edge there. And the amount of work he did in that game.
So if Pepe married Nick DePew, he'd be Pepe DePew.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. There you go. No, well, I mean, he wouldn't, because his first name is Ricardo. It's Ricardo Pepe, so he would be Ricardo DePew.
No, that's not nearly as funny.
Maybe he'd hyphenate it. It could be Ricardo Pepe
yeah.
DePew. There you go. Okay, good. Glad we got that figured out. So that's where it is. Also, the team of the week was released today as well. And when you look at that, you get Chicharito, you get Pepe on there. You get some guys from Sporting Kansas City who had 2 guys on there, same as the LA Galaxy, who also got Julian Araujo. I will say it was one of Araujo's quieter games in the last week. He played better against Vancouver if you really look at it. But for me, Julian Araujo did a great job on Espinoza, and I imagine that's sort of where the voters took that. MLS gets to MLS gets to choose these. I don't have anything involved with Team of the Week or anything else like that. Let's talk about Chicharito, though, Kevin, because this is something I called you about today because I accidentally stumbled across this stat. And to me, it's a little mind-blowing, even though it's 10 games in. I understand when I do these stats, Kevin, I want to be clear. I understand when I do these stats of where these players are in this road. We've already said a third of the season is not the full season, and that you can't just take numbers and predict them out. But I want to tell you something, that in 2021 through 10 games, Chicharito has 10 goals. Okay? Zlatan in 2019 had 30 goals in 29 games played. We understand. Okay, that all makes sense. If you're looking at goals per game, Zlatan scored just over 1 goal per game, 1.03. Right now, Chicharito is scoring 1 goal per game. Again, early, but comparative in terms of if you're looking at, if he keeps up this pace, he could be on pace to sort of tie Zlatan in some things. The thing that really has sort of stood out to me was the minutes per goal. How many minutes per goal? And if you go through, and I have all of the LA Galaxy single-time scores, single-season goal scorers, right? They're most. Zlatan Ibrahimovic had 30. Carlos Ruiz had 24. Zlatan in 2018 had 22. Hurtado had 21. Robbie Keane had 20. Landon Donovan had 20. If you look at the minutes per goal, there's a range there. Landon Donovan scored 1 goal every 107 minutes in 2008. If you go to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, in his best season where he scored 30 goals, he was scoring 1 goal every 87 minutes. All right? Guess who also is scoring 1 goal every 87 minutes? Chicharito.
Well, it's actually 86.6. Even I can do that math.
Yep.
So Chicharito's a tick better than Zlatan.
Yeah.
So it would be on pace to tie Carlos Vela's single season record of 34 goals if he plays all 34 games and keeps scoring like this.
I mean, that's, again, if and if. But whenever we said, and I was one of these people, and I'm not taking this away, but I said that Chicharito could never, replace Zlatan. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a team that can replace Zlatan, right? Because we all agree Zlatan was more an individual. But when you look at the numbers through 10 games, he is on pace to be Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The best Zlatan was for the LA Galaxy. Right now, Chicharito is on pace to be that. That doesn't mean he's going to be it. Doesn't mean there's going to be some big slump where he doesn't score for 10 games, and all of a sudden that goes out the window. But we do have to reassess. We all thought that if he scored between 15 and 20 goals this season, that it would be a successful season for him, right, Kevin? I think that was about the number, 15 to 20.
Yeah, or some people move 12 to 15. I don't think he's going to score 30 goals, but I think 25 now, 22 to 25,